You're listening to Halftime with Phil Elson, Matty T, and Matt Jenkins.
Back another steal. Thurman on the outlet.
Little showtime.
Here's a steal by McDaniel. Thurman spots up for the three.
The Razorbacks by 5. Hill knocked away. Scotty Thurman. They've got numbers. Thurman, change of pace, the flip, and a roll. Scotty Thurman.
Stewart. One on the shot clock. Thurman beat it. Oh! He got it. Three-pointer. Huge arch on that. He had to do it to get it over Lang's hand.
Some of the highlights of one of the greats at Arkansas, Scotty Thurman, joining us, the Ruston Rifle from, I'm assuming in Little Rock, as the current head coach of the Parkview Patriots. And appreciate your time, Scotty. It's been a while. How you doing?
You guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the situation for you guys right now? I know that the governor is supposed to have an announcement today that concerns high school football. I know it doesn't have anything to do with high school basketball, but what's the situation for you guys at Parkview, not really knowing what the upcoming season could look like or what it will look like?
Well, it's definitely a different state of circumstances, I'd say the least. But, we're adjusting as best we can. We've been given the right to work our guys out from a skill instruction standpoint. And we're just consistently trying to get in the gym and get in the weight room and do the things that we can do this off season to hopefully put us in a position that when we are allowed to play, or if we're, get an opportunity to have a season, that we'll be prepared to go out and compete at a high level.
How'd the first season go as a head coach, overall record-wise and comfort level growing into that role? You know basketball inside and outside. You've been a coach. But not a head coach, certainly at the level that Parkview usually plays at. What was this first season like for you? Did you feel that you grew as the season went on?
I think we definitely grew, not only myself as a coach, but also my student athletes. We did face some adversity. We had a couple of key guys that were out for numerous games. One of my seniors who's gone on to Shawnee Community College missed about 4 games due to concussion protocol. Cameron Wallace, who's a rising junior and probably one of the most talented players in the state, definitely one of the most athletic, missed about 6 games due to a wrist injury. And then my starting point guard, Christian Winkler, missed about 10 games, but we were still able to rally the troops at the end and give ourselves an opportunity to make the playoffs. And we lost to Hot Springs, which was a very, very competitive game. They were a very good team. But I think we grew a lot just because of the fact that we had to rely on quite a few young guys that now will come back, a year later, more experience and hopefully more season. And, they've got an opportunity to get to know me a lot more over this season, not only this season, but during this pandemic. And hopefully we can all continue to grow together.
Speaking to Razorback legend Scotty Thurman here on Halftime. Scotty, keep it with Little Rock Parkview just for a second. What was the transition like for you going from being an assistant coach and being on the campus with college players to then transitioning over to high school players? Was there a transition period that just kind of you had to get used to from going from college players to high school players?
Well, it was definitely a transition period because, in college you get an opportunity to recruit the type of student athlete that you want to have in your program, whereas in high school you kind of have to take, what walks through the door and figure out a way to make it work. Fortunately for me, I'm at a place that the name and the prestige of the program speaks for itself. However, when I received the job opportunity last year, it was new for everyone, and some kids had moved on, and, I was left with what was there, and I'm very excited about having that young group. But it was a definite transition when you think about dealing with older guys versus younger guys. A lot more you can probably input in terms of dealing with a teenager that's 14, 15 versus dealing with someone who's 19, 20, and in some cases 20 and 21 when they've redshirted. So, the topics of conversation are different. The way you teach the game is definitely different. But at the same time, it's still basketball, and I think, our guys have truly embraced the culture that we tried to set here and hopefully continue to build on the legacy that was set with Coach Flanagan as well as the late, great Coach Charles Ripley.
Well, we want to get in with Coach Ripley in a moment, but I want to expand a little bit on what you just mentioned because, I think in college sports, certainly in college football, baseball right now, we are depending upon, in the words of some others, consistent good judgment of 18 and 22-year-olds, which is a difficult thing to count upon. Now, you're dealing with younger kids here. How do you communicate to these student athletes in high school of the responsibility that they carry to themselves, to their family members, to their teammates in dealing with this pandemic?
Well, it's a challenge because this is new for everyone, myself included, whether it's administration or student athletes as well as parents. So what I just try to do is, educate them as best I can. When I receive new information, share that with them. Try to continue to stress social distancing. And, obviously you got young people sometimes that think that they're invincible. So we try to make sure that we continue to reiterate wearing a mask, practicing social distancing, hand cleansing. And, we do a pretty good job, my staff and I, of trying to make sure we sanitize all the equipment that's used so that they can see us doing it. Having a coach in a mask is somewhat challenging because you have some young men that, they need to see your lips move in order to be able to understand exactly what it is you're saying. So it's been challenging in that regards, but at the same time, I think that each of our young men have grown through this experience. And, it's challenging times. And at the end of the day, it's really nothing that they can do to control it. We just got to make sure that we do our part to try to stay safe and protect not only ourselves, but each and every one of us that come in contact with one another.
You brought up Coach Ripley just a second ago, and you're coaching in a gym where it bears his name. And being in Little Rock, I mean, the history of Little Rock basketball. Just what does Coach Ripley mean personally to you, and what does he mean to Arkansas high school basketball?
Well, it means a lot. To myself, I had the opportunity to get to know Coach Rip at a young age when he was coaching and helping out with the Arkansas Wings, which is where I met Corliss Williams. So I got an opportunity to, hear some of the stories, but to also receive some of the nuggets and some of the knowledge that he had. And then when I took on the position of head coach at Parkview, he was one of the first people that I reached out to. And obviously he was ill, but I did get the opportunity to visit with him over the phone a few times, as well as went by the nursing home and got a chance to sit with him and visit with him. And, he still had that fighting spirit all the way till the end. And, the one thing he shared with me that I think a lot of people that, whether they're coaches, teachers, what have you, sometimes we all forget at the end of the day, it's our job to serve others. And, he said that he always told me, you have a serving heart, the rest of those things to take care of themselves. Obviously, basketball is something we all love, and even other sports, football, baseball, or whatever you're interested in. At the end of the day, when you're in charge of helping develop young people both socially and athletically, the challenge is to make sure that you understand that you're a mentor / parent / coach. And I think sometimes the coach receives more of the recognition, more so than the mentor, as well as the parent portion of it.
That's awesome. Scotty, we can't hardly do an interview without having to talk about the 94 national championship team. And this question comes from Brandon in Paris. He wants to know, on that 94 team, who was the best individual defensive player on that team?
The best individual defensive player, man, that is really tough.
That team was loaded with studs that could guard the ball.
But I got to give it to two guys, and I know that's not what the question called for, but I can't pick one without the other. I mean, if you don't have Clint McDaniel and Corey Beck on that 94 team, there is no national championship. Yeah. Corliss and I both received a lot of notoriety for points and, making big plays. But at the end of the day, without those guys, not only their defense, but their leadership and the way that they, could rally guys together. And, Coach Richardson had their ear. They had Coach Richardson's ear. They were the pulse of that team, and they were the two experienced guys that, really led us. And they didn't really take their role lightly. A lot of kids nowadays, everybody wants to score. But I think the biggest thing with those guys was when you look at Clint McDaniel, who averaged about 30 points a game in high school, he gave of himself for the betterment of the team. And, it showed in our play. He was unselfish to give of himself and be more of a defender. And then it was still nice where he came up big for us and had scoring efforts. And then when you look at Corey Beck, I mean, the heart and soul of that team as well as our program during that whole 3-year run that we had together. I mean, he was just a guy that he wanted to guard the best player on the other team. And he wanted to not only do a good job guarding him, but he wanted to frustrate him and hopefully take him out of his game, which would inevitably benefit us down the stretch of that particular season.
Scotty, appreciate you joining us today. It's always fun talking basketball with you. I hope that we have a season. I hope that it looks something like what a basketball season has looked like in recent years, and wish you continued success at Parkview. Good luck.
Well, man, I appreciate you guys having me on. If there's anything I can do in the future, I love coming on here and speaking with you guys, man, and I can talk sports all day. So thank you guys, man. Please stay safe.
We will do so.
Fan.
We will do so.
Let's do it again.
The Rustin Rifle, the one and only Scotty Thurman, and we certainly appreciate his time. Governor Asa Hutchinson at his daily press conference announcing that the AAA has presented a schedule for no-contact drills with helmets only beginning August 3rd. That is Monday. So it looks like they're trying to get this high school football season in, and sounds more like a sooner rather than later.
And this also comes from Fearless Friday. He says and announced today that the Arkansas High School football will have a fall season after a delayed start. Games will begin at a date to be determined.
Very good. All right, we're going to close up the shop. After this, it's our cherry on the top, and we're talking Paul Eels.